Invisible lines crisscross our planet, dividing it in ways that influence the wealth of nations. These unseen lines are not mere figments of our imagination. They are real, tangible, and have profound effects on our world. They are the equator, the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, and the Arctic and Antarctic polar circles. These lines divide our world into various climate zones, each with its unique characteristics and challenges. The equator, that invisible belt circling the middle of our globe, separates the northern and southern hemispheres. The tropics of Cancer and Capricorn mark the boundaries of the tropical zone where the sun graces us with its highest point at least once a year. Outside these tropics and closer to the poles, we have the Arctic and Antarctic polar circles, marking the northern and southern extremes. Now let's focus on the tropical zone, that region between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. This zone is characterized by high temperatures and lush, verdant forests. You'd expect that such a region, blessed with natural abundance, would host prosperous nations, yet paradoxically, it's home to some of the world's most impoverished countries. To illustrate, let's take a look at South America. Countries like Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay, which are outside the tropics, have managed to build more robust economies compared to their tropical neighbors. This tropical paradox isn't unique to South America. Across the globe, in Asia, Europe, North America, and even Australia, regions outside the tropics generally show greater economic development and quality of life. The tropical phenomenon is a puzzling one. On one hand, we have the tropics' natural abundance, and on the other, we see the economic struggles faced by many tropical nations. It's as if these invisible lines not only divide the world into different climate zones, but also into zones of wealth and poverty. So what is it about the tropics that seems to hinder economic prosperity? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this mystery and explore the interplay between geography, climate, and wealth. The answers might surprise you. It's not just a coincidence that there's a pattern of prosperity outside the tropical zone. When we gaze across the globe, wealthier nations seem to cluster outside the band of tropical climates. Let's take a quick tour to illustrate this point. Starting in Asia, Japan and South Korea, both situated well outside the tropics, have transformed into economic powerhouses over the past century. They've become global leaders in technology, boasting high standards of living and robust economies. In contrast, their tropical neighbors, like the Philippines and Indonesia, despite their natural wealth, face significant economic challenges. Moving to Europe, we find some of the world's wealthiest countries, including Germany, France, and the United Kingdom, all comfortably nestled outside the tropical zone. These nations have a rich history of industrialization and trade, and today they continue to influence global economics and politics. Across the Atlantic in North America, the United States and Canada, both largely non-tropical, showcase high GDPs per capita and strong human development indices. Their southern neighbor, Mexico, despite having a vibrant culture and a wealth of natural resources, struggles with poverty and economic instability. Now, let's consider a single country with a stark contrast between its tropical and temperate regions, Australia. The temperate south, with cities like Sydney and Melbourne, is the economic heartland of the country, bustling with business and industry. On the contrary, the tropical north, while rich in biodiversity, is less developed and faces economic hurdles. But why does this matter? Why should we care about the geographical distribution of wealth and prosperity? Because understanding these patterns can help us address the economic disparities that continue to persist in our world today. So, is it a hard and fast rule that wealth is found outside the tropics? Well, not quite. Just as in any other aspect of life, there are exceptions, and in our next segment, we'll explore those outliers that defy this norm. But as with any rule, there are exceptions. Not all tropical countries are poor, and not all non-tropical countries are rich. This may sound surprising, but it's true. Let's take a look at some exceptions. Seychelles and Mauritius, two island nations located smack dab in the tropics, are prime examples. Despite being in this climatic zone, these countries have managed to defy the norm and maintain relatively prosperous economies. Seychelles, for instance, has made significant strides in developing its tourism industry, leveraging its stunning natural beauty to attract visitors from around the world. Meanwhile, Mauritius has diversified its economy, shifting from an agriculture-based model to one focused on services and knowledge-based industries. Yet these are exceptions, not the rule. The vast majority of tropical nations, particularly in Africa, grapple with extreme poverty and economic stagnation. So why the discrepancy? Well, the story begins with the origins of civilizations. The first civilizations flourished in both tropical and temperate regions, exploiting abundant natural resources. However, the paths these civilizations took over time diverged significantly. Consider the Silk Road, that ancient network of trade routes connecting the East and West. It facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultural practices, contributing to the prosperity of countries along its path, many of which were not in the tropics. Then came the Europeans' arrival in the Americas, bringing with them exploration, colonization, and a wave of economic and cultural devastation to tropical regions. This legacy of colonization has left many tropical countries at an economic disadvantage, struggling to industrialize while serving as sources of raw materials for industrialized nations. The countries that industrialized first, mostly outside the tropics, solidified their wealth and established global economic dominance. Meanwhile, tropical countries, many newly independent and without an industrial structure, were left behind in the global economic race. So, how did we get here? The answer lies in a complex mix of historical, geographical, and socio-economic factors, but one thing is clear: location matters, and it continues to shape the fortunes of nations, for better or for worse. The roots of this economic divide go back centuries to the era of exploration and colonization. The story of the tropics is one of paradoxical abundance and poverty, and to understand it, we must delve into the annals of history. When European explorers set foot in the Americas, it marked the beginning of a seismic shift that would reverberate through the centuries. The tropical regions, with their lush landscapes and bountiful resources, became the target of exploration and subsequent colonization. These events brought not only the exchange of goods, but also devastating economic and cultural upheaval. The colonizers, primarily from temperate regions outside the tropics, sought to extract the wealth of the tropical lands. They plundered the natural resources, from gold and silver to timber and crops, shipping them back to their homelands. The indigenous people caught in this wave of exploitation were often displaced, their traditions disrupted, their societies torn apart. This legacy of colonization has left a lasting impact. Many tropical countries, once prosperous and self-sufficient, were left ravaged, their economies structured around the needs of their colonizers rather than their own development. The wealth of the tropics was siphoned off, leaving these countries at an economic disadvantage. Meanwhile, the countries outside the tropics, those that had colonized others, began to industrialize. They were the first to harness the power of steam, to build railways, to establish factories. Their wealth, bolstered by the resources extracted from the tropics, solidified their global economic dominance. In contrast, the tropical countries, many of which gained independence only in the last century, were left behind in this global economic race. Without a solid industrial structure, they struggled to catch up, their economies still largely reliant on the export of raw materials. As we delve into this legacy of the past, we see how it has shaped the present. The wealth of nations is not merely a matter of their natural abundance, but also of their historical circumstances. The past shapes the present, but what about the future? Even today, the invisible lines continue to play a role in global wealth distribution. The echoes of our past can still be heard in the present. The geographical location of a country remains a significant factor in its economic status. Countries outside the tropics generally boast higher gross domestic product per capita and better human development indices. This disparity is a testament to the enduring impact of historical events and geographical determinants on modern economies. Consider the rampant inequality across the globe. The disparity between nations is not merely a product of internal factors, but also the result of their geographical location. The tropical regions, with their abundance of natural resources, should theoretically be prosperous. Yet they are home to some of the world's poorest nations. This imbalance isn't overlooked. International development and aid projects often target these tropical regions, aiming to bridge this gap. These initiatives seek to mitigate the historic inequalities that have disadvantaged tropical nations for centuries. They aim to foster economic growth, improve living conditions, and promote sustainable development. For instance, projects focused on improving education, healthcare, and infrastructure are common in these regions. These initiatives aim to empower local communities, fostering self-sufficiency and promoting long-term growth. The hope is that by addressing the root causes of poverty and underdevelopment, we can help these nations break free from the cycle of poverty. Yet, it's crucial to remember that aid isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Each nation has unique challenges and opportunities shaped by its history, culture, and geography. Therefore, it's essential that these development and aid projects are tailored to the specific needs of each country. In conclusion, the geographical location continues to influence modern economies, and it's a factor we cannot ignore. By understanding these geographical influences and their impact on global wealth distribution, we can work towards a more equitable world. With targeted aid and sustainable development projects, we can help tropical countries overcome their historical disadvantages. Understanding our world's economic geography can help us shape a more equitable future. By acknowledging the past and its influence on the present, we can look ahead and strive to create a world where prosperity isn't determined by invisible lines on a map. The relationship between geography and economy is complex, fascinating, and filled with untold stories. In our journey today, we've scratched the surface of an intricate and compelling narrative, one where invisible lines on a globe tell a tale of wealth and poverty, progress and stagnation, opportunities and challenges. But this is merely the prologue to an epic that awaits your exploration. The mysteries of the tropics are vast, and to truly understand them, it requires an insatiable curiosity, a thirst for knowledge, and the courage to venture into uncharted territories. It's more than just reading about it or watching a video. It's about immersing yourself in the subject, questioning the status quo, and seeking answers that lie hidden beneath centuries of history and layers of complexity. You might start by delving into academic research papers or books that delve into the socio-economic impacts of geography. Look into the works of scholars who have dedicated their lives to understanding this phenomenon. Consider, too, reaching out to educators, experts, and researchers in the field. Engage in discussions, debates, and dialogues. The more perspectives you encounter, the richer your understanding becomes. Another way to explore is through the lens of travel. If circumstances allow, visit these regions. Experience firsthand the realities of life in the tropics and the unique challenges they face. Connect with the people, listen to their stories, and witness the effects of geography on their everyday lives. And let's not forget the treasure trove of information available online. Numerous websites, blogs, and forums are dedicated to exploring this subject. Join these online communities, participate in their discussions, and learn from the collective wisdom they offer. In the end, remember that every piece of knowledge you glean adds a new dimension to your understanding. It helps you see the world from a fresh perspective and perhaps inspires you to contribute to the solutions that these tropical regions so desperately need. Remember, every journey of discovery starts with a single step, so take that step and uncover the mysteries of our world.